Welcome to Office Hours by Triple X Church. I'm your host, Carl Thomas. I'm a pastor, certified neuro health coach, and a guy who frankly struggled with a lot of the stuff we're going to be talking about today for over 20 years, until I found freedom about a decade ago. In today's episode, we are going to be jumping in and answering this very scary question. I just caught my kids sexting. Now what? That's what I will be talking about today, so make sure you hang in there and jump into this topic with me. Recognize that no questions are off the table, and I'm going to be as honest and as forward with my answers as I can possibly be, so please don't get offended. So, without any further delay, let's jump in. Okay, so this question came into our office hours page a couple weeks ago, I think, and the parent asked, my child recently sent an inappropriate sexual picture of himself to another teen his age of the opposite gender. We've prayed, confessed, hugged, and cried. I've taken away the phone. I don't know what else to do. I'm scared because of the legal issues which might follow. I just don't know. Please help me. All right. So this is a very scary situation for a parent, without a doubt. I haven't had to deal with this myself yet, thank goodness. But if I ever did, I'm sure I would feel a little off kilter and scared as well. But that being said, I just want to make it clear on the legal stuff, that is a legitimate concern. It's a very important concern, but I'm not a legal expert. So I can't really help you there on the legal side. You might want to talk to someone in law enforcement or an attorney. I don't know. But yeah, there's some research you want to do there in terms of the possible implications and maybe things you can do to hopefully avoid it from getting any worse than it possibly could get. However, that being said, I can give you some other tips. We work with some other partner ministries. I've done a lot of research on things like this. So I've collected some of the, let's just say the pointers that I've found to be the most helpful when it comes to this situation. So first thing is this. It sounds like this has already happened, but make sure you acknowledge the texts or the chats or the pictures that you've seen, okay? No need to be coy about it. No need to dance around the issue. Just come right out and say, hey, listen, I know what happened. I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. This is a problem. We need to discuss it. And then you go from there. Now, a couple things. First of all, you don't want this to be a shame issue, right? You don't want to come at them really hardcore and, oh, I can't believe you did this. What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. Like that's just going to shut them down and make them pull away. You want right now to have them hear you, right? You want them to actually listen to you, and you're not going to do that if you shame them, right? So it's more, hey, listen, I saw this, I acknowledge it. This is a problem, but I want to explain why because I care about you, and there's some real issues here that we need to dive into because if we don't, it could really cause problems for you down the road. All right. So, but again, no need to be coy. Just come right out and let's talk about this. Second thing, explain the consequences to your child. Now, of course, explain the legal consequences because there are significant legal consequences. There's no need to get around that. I'm not saying, typically I don't say, hey, you want to scare your kid into obedience, right? And that's not what I'm saying here. But there's absolutely no problem letting them know the grave situation that they may have put themselves in. If you're a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, I don't know how old this son is, but the last thing you want to do is get labeled legally a sex offender, right? Because you started sexting your girlfriend. Not saying that that's not serious, but getting hit with a sex offender charge, that's a big deal, right? But beyond that, you also want to talk to them about the social implications, right? We've all heard the horror stories of the boyfriend and girlfriend are sexting each other and then they break up and either the boyfriend or the girlfriend, usually the boyfriend, they post the pictures online or whatever. It's kind of like a revenge thing, right? And now they're out there. Kids, I think they get it, but sometimes they forget about it or they don't think about it. This is something I stress to my children all the time. Listen, we live in a digital age. Everything leaves a digital footprint, okay? If you type it and send it, if you take a pic and you send it, you post it, whatever, there's a record. There's a digital record of that, and there's no getting around it. And it's out there. There's no pulling it back. There's no retraction. It's out, and now you got to deal with it. So you got to explain to them, hey, like the social complications of this are significant, right? Something goes wrong, they post it, it goes on a porn site, whatever. That's a big deal. Now, as a parent, the legal thing is a bigger deal to me, but as a child, they might be more worried, honestly, about the social implications because the social implications are huge. And then the other thing is, and we'll talk about this a little more, but um, what are the consequences of the relationship, or what are the consequences on the relationship? What are you telling that girlfriend or that boyfriend or that friend about you, about how you view them, about how you view your relationship by sending nude pics, right? Because you are sending a message, and chances are it's not the message you really want to send. Third thing, and it sounds like you already kind of did this, but go over again kind of the family guidelines or rules for technology in your household, right? Hey guys, I mean, I've done this with my kids, right? We bought a cell phone for you. You have a plan. Here are the requirements or expectations, right? One thing I've told my kids about often, not just with technology, but other things is, hey, privilege comes with responsibility. If you want a privilege, if you want something, you got to take the responsibility with it. So, for instance, driving, right? That's a great privilege. Well, not every kid, most kids want to drive when they turn 17. But they also need to understand with that privilege comes responsibility, right? So you give your kid the keys of the car, he backs out, runs over the trash can, the neighbor's cat, and your son's bike. There's going to be some consequences to that, right? It's a responsibility, and if you can't handle the responsibility, then you don't get the privilege. And so you need to go over that. Say, hey, these are the ground rules for using this stuff. And if you can't abide by it, then we're going to have to pull back until you can. Now, while this is super scary and not something you ever want to be in the middle of if you can avoid it, it's also a great opportunity, right? And it's a great opportunity to dive back in to the whole topic of sex and relationships and marriage in the first place. I mean, quite frankly, the reason they're sexting, part of the reason they're sexting has to do with the fact that they don't fully, obviously, understand God's design for sex and his purpose for sex and any of that. Because if they really understood that, then they probably wouldn't be sexting somebody else. And honestly, a lot of parents, a lot of Christian parents, don't really understand the true meaning or purpose of sex. This is why, like, it's happened to me. Growing up, a lot of kids grow up with this idea of, hey, sex seems fun. Sex sounds great. For some reason, my parents and God don't want me to do it. I guess it works best in the context of marriage. But hey, it feels pretty good, so why not try it myself, right? And that's not it. Like, sex is not just this thing that happens to work best in marriage. It's not a hobby, right? It's got a very unique purpose. In my book, When Shame Gets Real, which is coming out in February, I have a whole chapter on it called Sacred Sexuality. And just kind of diving into this idea that because so many people out there don't really understand the true purpose, beauty, and spiritual nature of sex, we tend to abuse it, not realizing what we're doing and basically the profound complications of that abuse, right? So great opportunity to jump into that and kind of remind them about these things. Last thing too is I would say check their social media accounts. Now you don't want to do this sneakily, right? You don't want to say, okay, hey, I took your phone, let's blah, blah, blah. They walk away and now you're doing your hunting and you're, oh, what are they doing on Facebook or what are they doing on Instagram? Or, oh, hey, I'm going to set up a phony account and try to, no, don't go about it sneakily, right? Because if you get caught, and there's a good chance you will get caught because your kids are probably more tech savvy than you, that's going to completely blow the trust thing out the window. I would be pretty straightforward about this. And I would approach it in kind of like, hey, again, not shameful, but just being honest. Hey, listen, we gave you this. There were expectations. There was a trust level there, right? If you have this, we trust you're going to use it the proper way. But you broke that trust. And now we want to move forward. We want to start from scratch and rebuild this trust. But before we do that, I want to see what you're doing on social media to make sure there's no other fires we have to put out, right? I want to make sure that you're behaving, if you will, on these other platforms, because if you're sexting pics on your phone, maybe you're doing the same thing on Snapchat, maybe you're doing the same thing here or there. So I would tell them, hey, if you want to continue using social media, I need to have access to it for now and see what you're up to. And again, stress to them, this is not about micromanagement. This is not about being overbearing. This is about the fact that you violated the trust. You didn't hold up, right, your responsibility again. And so for now, we have to go this route. Doesn't mean that you can't get that trust back. It doesn't mean that you can't get these privileges back without these kind of parameters. But for now, this is what we have to do because, again, you violated the trust, right? You took advantage of the privilege without holding up the responsibility. And I know it's hard to do that without shame, but you just, hey, these are the consequences, right? This is what happens. I know you don't love it, but it is what it is, right? So I hope that helps. Again, don't envy your position. Gosh, I know it's one of the scariest things a parent can run into or hear about or see, but I think you can navigate this in a pretty healthy way. And again, you might want to do some homework on the legal stuff. But anyway, that's it for this week. And listen, if you have a question for us, go to xxchurch.com/office hours and submit your question there, and we will answer it in an upcoming episode. So that's it. Have a great week.